For this exercise, I'm going to show you how to set up your interactive report using Adobe InDesign. Before we get started, make sure you finished up each of the 4 different charts and graphs, and you still have access to the fire statistics data. We're going to be putting all of this text into our design of our report for this particular section. Also, make sure you finished up or have nearly completed the 3-dimensional building. We're going to be adding this building to the first page as the main cover design for our report. So to get started, let's jump into Adobe InDesign, and we'll go up to File and create a new document. As far as the size and setup for this document, it's going to be on an iPad Retina display. So choose Mobile from the presets, and then choose iPad Retina. If you need to type it in specifically, make sure you're working in pixels. The size of it is 2048 pixels wide by 1536 pixels tall. This will put you in a landscape orientation. You can uncheck the primary text frame because we won't need that, and for now we'll keep it at 1 pages. Also, if you want to open up your margins, you can keep the default margins of 36 points, but later on you may want to change this up to suit the needs of your design. As far as the title or the name of this, we can simply call this the Fire Report, and be sure to add your name to it as well. We'll say Create and jump into our document. Now before we begin, we need to set up the arrangement of all of our tools and palettes. Instead of using InDesign for the traditional publishing that we've always been using it for, we want to set it up for interactive and touchscreen kind of display for digital publishing. To do this, let's go up to Window, down to Workspace, and let's access the Digital Publishing tool setup. When you select this, a variety of different palettes will pop up. And if yours is like mine, where you've already had several palettes opened up, we may need to reset our workspace. So let's also return to Window, Workspace, and choose Reset Digital Publishing. This will put everything back into place. You'll notice now that you've got a variety of different palettes, including animation, buttons, timing, media. All of these are different kinds of palettes that will allow you to add interactivity to the design and layout. In addition to this, we've got our traditional palettes like our pages, our swatches, and strokes and lines, everything that we're normally used to working with in InDesign. Also, before we begin, let's go ahead and define a color scheme that we can use throughout the entire design that we're working on. In the past, I've shown you different websites, including Adobe's color wheel, that allows you to upload and use pictures or select and choose between an existing color wheel and then save up those swatches. Another great website to go to is called coolers.co. With this one, you can sign up for it, but you can also use it for free. If you click on Explore or Generate, you can see a variety of different custom color swatches that other people have also created and be able to save those up and use those. Remember, to use them, all you really have to do is to explore them and then take a screenshot of the area that you want to save. I've already saved a couple of different color schemes to choose from. You can see I've got this nice tan and red, and I've also got this cool grays and reds to use within my report. I like these cool grays and reds, so I'm going to load this one and save it up as a separate color swatch. So I'll go to File, down to Place. I need to find that screenshot. It's on my desktop. We'll place it within our document. Remember to quickly and easily select all the colors there. We're going to use our Color Theme tool. With the Color Theme tool selected, one click inside of here will pick up all of the colors that are in there, and you may have to pick and choose between the right ones before it gets this one. With that, we can add this to our color swatches with one click. Now we should be able to go up to any of our color swatches and scroll to the bottom and be able to see that new theme of colors automatically saved to our palette, ready to go and ready to use. Let's get rid of these color swatches. We won't need them. Now we can jump in and actually start building out our project. The first thing we want to create are a series of buttons at the bottom of our page. To do this, I'm going to select my Type tool and click and drag to create one simple text box. I'm going to type some dummy text in there just so I can see it and make it a little bit larger. We'll change that up and format it a little bit later. Now choose your selection tool and hold down the Option key as you click and drag and create 3 more boxes. There's 2 and there's 3. If for some reason these get misaligned or off a little bit, that's okay. Simply select all of them. Let's open up our alignment and distribution. So go up to Window, down to Object and Layout, choose Align. With Align open, in order to get them evenly lined up, you can choose the very top center one, align to the top edges. Notice that pulls it up. To make sure they're evenly distributed within each other, under Distribute Objects, choose the second from the last one to distribute these horizontally, and now they're evenly spaced. The other thing we want to do is to stretch them all the way across our page. So I'm going to set this so that the left edge lines up over here. Hold down my Shift key and scale these up until my right edge aligns with the right side of this. If I need to move these over or to readjust them, let's say I wanted to bring the spacing in between these a little bit closer. I can click on the edge right here, then hold down my space bar and drag it in, and notice how they're all getting slightly closer together without changing up the size of them. Now all I have to do is to drag them back out so that they're perfectly aligned right there. Let's close up our alignment tool. With them all selected, now let's start formatting our text. I want them to be in the dead center of each one of these squares. So I'm going to grab my Type tool again, go up to the very top. Let's choose to align these center. That'll work on the horizontal alignment. Now I want the vertical alignment. To do that, we need to open up the Object, Text Frame Options, and vertical alignment can be found under Vertical Justification. Change it from align to the top to the center. Now you can see it brings it down to there, and we'll say OK to that. The next thing we need to do is to type in the appropriate text for each one of these. This first one will be Fire Statistics. The next one will be Trends and Causes. The next one will be Building Safety. And the next final one will be Fire Prevention Tips. Again, I'm going to put all of those on their own separate line. And finally, in order to format all of these, I'm going to choose my Selection tool, select all of the text boxes, and to access my type, I'm going to choose my Type tools, and then I can choose a font, size, and any other formatting that I want in order to save these up. I'll leave this up to you however you want to save yours. Later on you can go back and make whatever changes. For now, I'm just going to keep it very simple. For instance, I'm going to set my box fill color to be one of the background colors that we created. Let's choose this medium gray. I'll set my type color to be white, or in this case paper. We'll make it a little bit larger for all of them. If you want these to be all caps or small caps, that's where these double T's come in. I kind of like the look of the small caps. And we'll set my font to be bold. And I'm going to bring in the leading just a little bit for each one of these. Like I said, at any time you can always go back and change these up. This will especially look good once we start adding in our background. Now that we've got 4 different buttons to work with, we can start adding on our other pages before we start adding the interactivity. Now, since I want all of my other pages to have a similar layout for all of the buttons and the text and the information, this means I need to have a master page that I can reuse over and over again so that everything looks nice and consistent. So to create this master page, let's go up to our Pages panel, click on the A Master Page, and then choose to create a new page, and this will create the B Master page. This B Master is what we're going to create for all of our subsequent pages. Since we've double-clicked on it, we're working in the B Master page layout. We want to create a series of guidelines to place all of our buttons and information. If you don't see your rulers at the top and left-hand side, for instance, I'm going to turn mine off now, you can go to View and down to Show Rulers, and this will turn them back on. The first thing we want to create are two vertical guides, one at 520 pixels and another at 580 pixels. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so I can see those guides up here. To create a vertical guide, click on the left-hand side and drag. And we're going to put one right at 520 pixels right there. Again, let's click and drag. And let's do another one at 580 pixels right there. By the way, a good tip to know is to hold down the Shift key whenever you click and drag out a new guide, and it will automatically jump in increments of usually about 5 pixels. We'll zoom back out now. Now let's create a vertical guide at 190. Again, click on the top, hold down Shift, and then drag down till it says 190 pixels, and that'll work for this area. The reason why we want to set this up, all of our buttons are going to be on the left-hand side, and then we're going to put our titles and subtitles up here at the very top. So as we click on them, we'll know what area that we're working in. Now we can double-click on page 1 within our Pages panel to return to our main area, and let's add 4 more pages below page 1. To do this, let's go up to Layout, choose Pages, and choose Insert Pages. In our case, we want to add 4 new pages after page 1, and we're going to be using the B master page for those. When we say OK, this will add those 4 pages below page 1, as you can see in our Pages panel. Let's start by working on page 2. So I'm going to my Layers panel, make sure page 2 is selected, and we're going to add 5 buttons along this left-hand side. So again, let's grab our Type tool. We'll zoom in just a little bit. Click and drag until you create one button, and this button is going to go all the way to that first 520 pixel margin. Inside of this, again, I'm just going to add some dummy text for now, just so I can see the size of it. And we're going to hold down Option as we click and drag and create 4 more copies. There's 3, and one final one. Again, you may want to click and drag and resize these. And to make sure they're evenly distributed, again, I'm going to go up to Window, Object and Layout, and Align. And in my case, I want to make sure they're all distributed evenly horizontally. So I'm going to click that once, and that will distribute all of those up nice and evenly. We can close this out. Inside each of these, we need to add the different subcategories that's under our Fire and Statistics. So to do this, we'll grab our Type tool again and type out what's necessary. The first one will be Causes of Fatal Fires. Next one will be Fatal Fires between 2008 and 2008. Third one is Fatalities by Time and Day. Fourth one are Fatal Campus Fires by month. And the final one is to return home. So we'll type out home for this one. As with the other ones, we want to format these so that they look a little bit more like buttons. So choose your selection tool, click and drag over all of these. I'm going to choose my Type tool and let these be aligned to the right-hand side. And again, I want to center it up. So let's go to Object, Text Frame Options, and to align center, choose Vertical to align it to the center. The other thing I want to do is maybe I don't want to have them right along the edge. Watch what happens if I was to turn on a color for the background. Let's say for these, we'll set them to be more of a reddish kind of color. Again, I'll set my type to be something noticeable like a bold white. If you ever got your type to be along the right hand side and you want to add a little bit of a margin inside of it, go back up to Object, Text Frame Options, and this is where you can add inset to the text boxes you have selected. Under Spacing Inset, and I've got Preview turned on, I've also unlinked everything because I only want to add the inset to the right hand side. As I increase this, you can see how it pushes it over and gives me some inset along this side without having to worry about the alignment within the inside of it. We'll say OK to that. Again, we'll also set a good size for it. Let's say it's set to 20. Oh, let's go much larger than that. Whatever you want to be for yours, you can also change up the font that you choose and the titles that they're working with. One thing I will note, the home button does need to be drastically different from all of the others. So maybe instead of having this one be the same color, I'm going to change it to be something like the lighter or the darker color, and maybe even adding it to be a little bit smaller. This is the button we're going to place, or we're going to click on for each one, so that it returns us back to our home main screen so we can choose from this. The next thing we want to set up is some sort of title at the very top of our page. For this one, we're going to make a copy of our buttons, since I've already got it set up. I'll drag this all the way off to the side. Now the title up here, we're going to be creating the fire statistics, so I'm going to type in the word fire statistics. Again, we'll make it much larger. Maybe this time, instead of it being just bold, we'll also make it italics. And we'll also increase a little bit of that inset. All of this is left up to you however you wish to design out yours. It could be something different. When I go into preview mode, this will give you an idea of exactly what it should look like. Now let's talk about adding some interactivity to our individual pages. If we return to page 1, page 1 represents our main home landing page. This is the one page that we should always be able to go back to in order to access the different parts of our report. For now, we're only accessing, or we're only designing, the fire statistics subpages. So let's create a button for this fire statistics. Select the fire statistics, then locate the buttons and form palette. When you click on this one, you can choose different types of buttons to create. In our case, we want to choose just a regular old button. With it created, we can give it the name of Fire Stats. Notice that I didn't add a space in between that one. What do we want to do when we click on it? Well, on the event, we want this to happen when we tap or release it. And the action that we want to have, click the little plus sign, is to go to a specific page. And this one's down towards the middle. Go to page. Now the page we want it to go to will be page 2. This is our fire statistics first page. So within those options, choose page 2 out of 5. And then we can hit return. And that will lock in what this button will do. If you ever want to test out your buttons or test out any of the pages, go up to Window, down to Interactive, and select the Epub Interactivity Preview. With this turned on, it'll open up a simple little palette. We can click on the edge and make it a little bit larger. One thing to do, since we're working on multiple pages, is to go down to the very bottom right-hand side and choose a preview for the entire document. Next, we can go to the bottom left side and click play, and this will load up our page. Now when I scroll over the buttons, you can see my hand turns on for fire statistics because that's the only button, and when I click on it, it takes me to page 2. So now I know my button is working. The next thing we need to do is to set up buttons for each of these subsequent pages that are here. This will be page 2, page 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to be repeating the same process. We just need to make sure we choose the correct page for each one. As far as the home button, this will take us back to page 1. I'll close out my preview. Let's go to page 2 and set up each of the different buttons for these pages. Let's take these buttons one at a time so that we don't rush through it. I'll even drag on or get my buttons and forms a little bit closer to the area that I'm working on. First, select the Causes of Fatal Fires text button. Under the Buttons and Forms, choose Button as the type. We're going to call this one Cause of Fire. The event, we'll keep it on release or tap. Click the little plus sign and choose Go to Page. In our case, this is going to be page 2, so set it to be page 2. Once you hit return, that's all you have to do. Click on the second one, Fires Between 2008. The type of this will be a button. The name of it will be Fires Between. The event will stay as On Release. Choose the plus sign and choose Go to Page. This will be page 3. Hit return. Let's scroll on down. Choosing this one. The type will be a button. The name of this one is Fatalities by Time. The event is On Release. Choose the plus sign and choose Go to Page. And under Go to Page, this one will be page 4. And this final one will be a button. The name of this will be Fatal Campuses. The event is On Release. The action will be to go to page, and the page that we're going to do will be page 5. Finally, choose your Home button. Make it a button. Choose Home. And the event is On Release, and the action will be Go to Page. And since this is going back to our home page, the page we want to go to will be page 1, and hit return. Let's zoom back out. This is also a good point to save up. I'm going to place my buttons back over here so I can quickly and easily find them as I need them. Let's place it down at the bottom. Now with this done, I've got one small problem. I've got all of my buttons here on page 2 and page 1, but I don't have any more content on any of the other pages. And I want these other pages to look exactly like I have in page 2. So we need to copy everything that we have and paste it exactly where it needs to be. So I've got my selection tool. I'm going to select everything on page 2, go up to Edit and Copy. Let's go down to page 3. Go up to Edit, and we're going to paste it right in place. This will put it in exactly the same spot as we have in the previous page. Let's go to page 4, go to Edit, Paste in Place, places it right there. Let's go to our final page 5, Edit, Paste in Place. And I will place it right in place for all of the other different spots. The last thing we'll do before we do any testing is I want to drag out each of the different buttons so that it'll indicate which one we've clicked on. Let's go back to page 2. This is our first of the fire statistics. Here's what I'm wanting to look for. Choose Causes of Fire and then drag it out to that second one. This means when I go here, this will look like it's popped out and indicates what information should go on this page. We'll zoom back out. Let's go to page 3. This is Fires Between 2008 and 18. Go to page 4, drag out the fatalities, and then finally go to page 5, and then drag out the last one for the Fatal Campus of the month. When we return to our main page, page 1, let's now do a preview. We'll go up to go to Window, go down to Interactive, and open up the Epub Interactive Preview. Again, you may have to drag out the size of it so you can see the height and width. Go down to the very bottom left-hand corner, turn it on, then hit play. This should load up our first one. Now we can click on Fire Statistics, and we should be able to jump between all of the different tabs. If it does a little blinking thing, that's okay. That's just part of the rendering for what we have. But now they're all interactive and should allow us to go to each one. Even clicking on Home will take us back to our home page. Once we've got this done, the second thing we need to do is to start loading up all of our content for each of the different pages, and then we can go back and format everything else. So the first thing we'll create on page 2 is the information for the causes of the fatal fires. Everything we place will be placed nicely inside of this right-hand side. The first thing we'll do is our different graph. And so we'll go to File, down to Place. Let's locate the different graphs and charts that we created. And the kind of chart that we first created should be the pie chart. So these are the different causes that were done. When we say open, remember it will follow our cursor till we click and drag and place this within this particular area. Now remember, when we created this, it was done in Adobe Illustrator, so everything is nice in vector. If for some reason yours came in and it wasn't a high resolution, you can go up to View, down to Display Performance, and make sure High Quality Display is checked on. Mine's already checked on, so we should be good to go. The other thing we need to add to here is the text that accompanies all of this. To find this, you can go to your exercise information, open it up, and we need to copy out all of the different text, including the title, all of the blurb that goes along with it, and we may even need to add some of the information back to our chart that we created that was lost once it was created for this. Let's take over the title of it first. So here's the title. We'll copy this. You may format it however you wish and place it wherever you want. I'm just going to grab my text box, paste it into there, and for now we'll just make it nice and larger. Additionally, I'll go back to my information. Let's copy out our little blurb about it. Go back to our original data and create a text box below it and paste in our information for that. With that done, now let's see if we can format this to be a little bit more interesting and fit our design. We'll center everything up. I'll make mine bolder, a little bit larger. When I go into preview mode, it'll give you an idea of how this should look. Additionally, I can do things like change around the colors of stuff. Repeat this process for each of the different subcategories under fire statistics. With all of that done, let's return to page 1 and add the text and information and picture behind everything for this. Let's go to File, down to Place. For page 1, let's locate that 3D building that we created on our last exercise. There's mine. Say Open. We'll click and drag. And I'll go to the Layout, under Object, Arrangement. Let's send it to the back of everything. All I need it to do is to fill up the entire area. So if necessary, you may need to click on the little inside area and then on the drag handles to make it larger or smaller. With this done, the last thing we need to do is to add the text to our first page. I'll grab a type tool, click and drag. It needs to say U.S. Fire Administration. Make it a little bit larger so we can see it. There we go. Again, we'll highlight this, change up the formatting of it. And then the name of this report is Campus Fire and Safety. do this one in upper and lowercase. You may format this however you wish. Just make sure everything is nice and readable. Once you've got all of this in here, now I can go back through all of my different pages and start to clean up my design. One thing to note, whenever you do an interactive design, especially if it's going to be saved as an Epub, there are certain things that you can and cannot do. One thing you cannot do is change the blending mode of anything that you have on here. For instance, if I wanted to be able to see my type or my image behind my little buttons here, I could easily select these and open up my transparency panel and then change the blending mode to something like multiply so that I could see it this way. But if I went to export this, this wouldn't export correctly. It'll give me an error and it won't display the way I wanted to. One thing I can do is lower the opacity of something. And so that's what I'm going to stick with if I ever need to be able to see something that's behind here. Now here's the trick with using opacity. Again, I've got this button selected. At the very top, you do have your opacity setting right here. If I was to lower the opacity now to say 50%, notice that it lowers the opacity of everything that's inside of the box, including the text and type that I have inside of it. And that's not exactly what I want. This looks good for the outside of it, but I want to be able to read the text and type just like normal. So I'm going to undo that. If you want to lower the opacity of the text box that it's in, but not touch the text, let's open up our transform panel from here. So go under Window, go down to Effects, and under Effects, notice that you've got a variety of different things to choose from. If Object is selected and you drop the opacity of the entire object, this gets everything. But if you choose Fill and drop the opacity of just the fill, notice that the type remains 100% and only the fill is being affected. And so that's one careful little hint to keep in mind as you change up the design and layout of everything else that's on your particular design. From here, I'll leave it up to you. Once you've finished up with this portion of the exercise, you can focus on creating and adding these subsequent pages for the trends and causes. The next part of this exercise will focus on doing the building safety, and then your part of the project will be adding the fire prevention and tips. All right, now that I've cleaned this up a little bit, I'll scroll through and give you an idea of my entire layout. Remember, to test this, we can go up to Window, down to Interactive, and open up the Epub Interactive Preview. Again, you may need to make it slightly larger so you can see everything. So let's click and drag the width and the height. We will set the thing to set the full document mode. Click the play button. This will bring up the first page. And from here, we should be able to click on the button. So fire statistics, then click between each one. You can see how it will load it up between there. And click home. There it is created. Now in order to save this, first let's go to File and save up our regular Indesign document. But if we want to test this within an Epub reader, we need to export it. So let's go to File, down to Export. We'll save this as our fire report, but instead of it being a PDF, under the format, change it from PDF print to Epub fixed layout. With that selected, I'm going to do mine on the desktop. We'll say Save. We're going to keep all of the options to be exactly the same and just say OK. This may take just a moment to save up. Well, once it's finished, on your desktop you should have a new Epub. Now if you're using an Apple computer like mine, it's going to automatically open up iBooks. And in some cases it may ask you to sign into iBooks. If this is the case, all you have to do is hit cancel because we don't want to add the store. We just want to open up the reader. Here it is with the reader already opened up, and you can see here's our main page. From here we can click on the fire statistics, and this should load up a little bit better and give you a better preview of what exactly your Epub will look like without all the flashes in between. Pay close attention to the layout of all of your text to make sure nothing is broken awkwardly or has some awkward spacing once it's finished. Once you're done with this, we're not going to upload the Epub or the Indesign file just yet. We're going to save this for the next set of exercises and work through those to show you how to lay out the building safety and then finally adding animation to your final layout.